Hi, I'm Gary Wakeford, Chief Executive Officer of OsteoDx Incorporated, and we're going to go on a journey together today to understand a little bit more about the cortical bone mechanics technology developed at The Ohio University in Athens. Do you realize that mankind is quickly approaching a time in our evolution when never again will every human being be on the planet Earth at the same time? With the International Space Station and with the progress that has been made in reaching Mars, it is very likely that there will always be a certain number of humans in space. It is also very likely that this number will only continue to increase over time. Did you also know that NASA has already shown that every single person that goes to space experiences bone loss? The longer a person is in space, the greater the magnitude of loss in bone density. This is not only the potential to adversely impact the amount of time they can spend on a mission, but it also holds the potential to predispose them to the early onset of osteoporosis and other bone-based deficiencies. This is a dilemma that will need to be effectively addressed if man is ever to spend significant amounts of time in space. The problems caused by osteoporosis, osteopenia, and other bone diseases is also a huge problem today on planet Earth. Just in the U.S. alone, there are 2.3 million fragility fractures of bone that is currently costing the U.S. healthcare system $19 billion. Yes, that is billion with a B. A fragility fracture is defined as a fracture that results from mechanical forces that would not ordinarily result in fracture. This basically means that the bone should not have fractured, but it did due to the presence of a weakened bone state. This is a simple equation to understand. As people age, there's a higher incidence of osteoporosis. More osteoporosis means more fractures. This malady is not unique to the United States. According to the International Osteoporosis Foundation, globally there are 9 million fragility fractures each year at a cost of $75 billion. This problem is further compounded by the fact that the current standard of care, which is dual X-ray absorptiometry, or DEXA, which measures bone mineral density, is a very poor predictor of fracture. Bottom line is that bone mineral density does not equal bone strength. Leading physicians in this space have quoted as saying, "The ability of DEXA to accurately predict a patient's fracture risk is less than that of a coin flip." The current rates of both false positives and false negatives exceed 80%. The end result of this is that we have millions of people receiving treatment who probably don't need it, and many more millions in need of treatment who don't qualify for it based on their DEXA score. The cortical bone mechanics technology was developed at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. The company has a strong working relationship with the state support of the university's Innovation Center, the Technology Transfer Office, and the funding arm of Tech Growth Ohio. So, we have a problem that is acknowledged by NASA, it's acknowledged by the U.S. government, and acknowledged by the U.S. healthcare system. So let's talk a little bit about the solution. And that solution is the cortical bone mechanics testing technology coming out of The Ohio University in Athens. It utilizes vibration analysis to measure the cortical bone stiffness of the ulna. And this is important because it does it radiation-free, it's non-invasive, it's painless, and it's very easy to administer. Initial proof of concept testing included the use of both artificial ulnas and cadaveric ulnas. When the cortical bone stiffness of the ulna, estimated by the CBMT technology, was compared with the scientific research gold standard of quasi-static mechanical testing, the data all fell along the same identity line with an accuracy determined to have an R-squared of 0.999. Further testing utilized quasi-static mechanical testing to demonstrate the correlation between cortical bone stiffness and cortical bone strength. This also provided an R-squared of 0.999. This clearly demonstrates that cortical bone stiffness equals cortical bone strength. Now, when reviewing the current methodologies used in the marketplace, DEXA is by far the dominant player in the current standard of care. The common Achilles heel of all the modalities used, however, is that to one degree or another, they all rely on bone mineral density measurements to predict fracture risk. Again, all of the science overwhelmingly demonstrates that bone mineral density is simply a poor predictor of fracture risk. We at OsteoDx are confident that we can further refine the data that we measure to accurately identify a patient's risk of fragility fracture. This is the key to being able to intervene and prescribe treatment to heading off and preventing the fractures from ever occurring in the first place. The roadmap to successful commercialization of the CBMT technology follows a very straight and direct path. We will start first with the research use only market. We will then transition to the U.S. clinical market, and then we will transition to the global international market. Stage 1 involves initially selling the CBMT technology as a research use only device into the scientific and research community. Big pharma companies producing and conducting research on drugs designed for the treatment of osteoporosis also provide an avenue for sale as a research use only device. Sales of research use only devices do not require FDA approval to market. We will use this data to secure FDA approval and move into the U.S. clinical market. Step 2 will involve our entry into the U.S. clinical market as a Class 2 de novo medical device. We have completed an initial pre-submission with the FDA and are in the process of completing a second. The intent of the second pre-submission is to gain clarity on the specific testing the FDA will want to see in our formal application. It is our intent to submit our formal application to the FDA by July of 2022. This will now allow initial sales into the clinical market by late 2022 and early 2023. Stage then will be after securing FDA approval to market the technology in the U.S., we'll work with our regulatory partners to secure required approvals to market the product into Europe and beyond. Our path in supporting this roadmap to a successful commercialization includes the following. Number 1, through science we will clearly demonstrate the higher accuracy of the data measured by the CBMT technology and also show the clinical value of the information provided. 2, we will complete a Phase 2 SBIR clinical study demonstrating the ability of the technology via a fracture discrimination study. 5 sites to begin in September of 2021, SBIR grant start date of June 1st, 2021. In conjunction with working with key opinion leaders in the bone research world, upon receiving FDA approval to market, we will secure a temporary CPT code as the technology is very unique. We also have what we believe are very reasonable sales projections that will align us to be a successful target acquisition by one of the key providers of DEXA. The OsteoDx team has a very strong group of professionals, as is evidenced by the results to date. We have achieved much with little. We started with state and federal grants to validate the technology and did so very successfully. Our results were so impressive that we have been awarded a Phase 2 grant from the National Institutes of Health for $2 million. We have secured follow-on investments of $450,000 with a $1 million target. If you take a look at our team, our board chairman and our CEO have both successfully taken a product from initial conception to FDA approval and have achieved very successful exits. Board advisors with strong, successful grant writing experience and nationally recognized experts in bone research are part of our team. We are in the process of completing our seed round of funding where we have targeted a raise of $1 million. Our ask is the following. OsteoDx is looking for additional investors in the $250,000 to $500,000 range, and we are also looking for an introduction to the NASA healthcare team. With a $75,000 average selling price and a 66% margin, this becomes a very attractive opportunity for a lot of people. We are also working on a second generation version of this technology with a much smaller footprint, which will make it more amenable to being placed in primary care physician offices. There's been a significant amount of activity in mergers and acquisitions in this particular space. We are confident we will become an attractive acquisition target. So our final ask of NASA is help us help you.